The clock on the wall showed 3:27 a.m. when Alex Harper heard the cries again. He sighed, running his hands through his messy hair, and pushed himself up from his desk where he'd been trying to review business reports. The soft glow of his laptop illuminated the dark hallway as he walked toward the nursery for what felt like the 100th time that night. "I'm coming, little ones," he whispered, his voice rough from lack of sleep. The crying grew louder as he approached the nursery door. Inside, two identical cribs stood side by side, each holding a 6-month-old baby girl with rosy cheeks and dark curls like their mother's. Lily and Rose, his precious daughters, were the spitting image of his late wife, Claire. "Hey there," Alex said softly, leaning over Rose's crib first. Her tiny face was scrunched up, tears streaming down her cheeks. The moment he picked her up, Lily's cries intensified. It was always like this, a never-ending cycle of one baby waking the other. Alex bounced Rose gently while reaching for Lily with his free arm, a balancing act he'd become surprisingly good at over the past months. With both babies against his chest, he walked to the rocking chair in the corner of the room, the one Claire had picked out when they learned they were having twins. "What's wrong, sweethearts? Daddy's here," he murmured, rocking back and forth, while the moonlight cast long shadows across the expensive nursery. The room was filled with every baby gadget money could buy: sound machines that mimicked womb noises, projection lights that displayed stars across the ceiling, automated rockers, and sleep sacks that cost more than most people's monthly rent. None of it helped. The twins hadn't slept through the night since they were born, and at 6 months old, the sleep deprivation was taking its toll on everyone. As a tech company founder worth millions, Alex was used to solving problems with money and innovation. When his daughters wouldn't sleep, he'd simply ordered every top-rated sleep product on the market. When those failed, he'd flown in Dr. Bergman, a renowned pediatric sleep specialist from Switzerland, paying her $15,000 for a consultation that resulted in nothing but a suggestion to be patient. Patience was running thin. In the 6 months, since Claire had died from complications during childbirth, Alex had barely slept more than 2 hours at a stretch. The dark circles under his eyes had become a permanent feature, and his employees had started whispering about his mental state. I know," he whispered as Rose's cries turned to whimpers. "You miss her too." The thought of Claire made his chest tighten. They'd met 10 years ago at a tech conference. She was brilliant, beautiful, and completely unimpressed by his success. Their whirlwind romance had led to marriage within a year, and they'd spent 5 wonderful years building his company together before deciding to start a family. The pregnancy had been a surprise. Twins didn't run in either family, but they'd been ecstatic. Then everything fell apart in a matter of hours. What should have been the happiest day of their lives turned into the worst. The doctors had tried everything, but in the end, Alex had left the hospital with 2 babies, and without the love of his life. "Shh, it's okay," he soothed, though he wasn't sure if he was talking to the twins or himself. By 4:15 a.m., the girls had finally settled down. Alex carefully placed them back in their cribs, holding his breath as Rose stirred slightly. When both remained asleep, he tiptoed out of the nursery, leaving the door cracked open so he could hear when, not if, they woke again. In the kitchen, he made a cup of coffee, his third of the night. His phone buzzed with an email from his chief financial officer, who was in Tokyo closing a deal. The message was simple. "Are you sure about this acquisition? The board is concerned." Alex stared at the screen, the words blurring together. He wasn't sure of anything anymore. The company he'd built from nothing into a tech giant worth billions was starting to slip through his fingers, all because he couldn't think straight without sleep. The house was too quiet and too loud at the same time. The 8,000-square-foot beachfront property had been his and Claire's dream home. Now it felt like a museum of what could have been. The garden she'd planned to plant, the art studio that was now a storage room, the nursery she'd designed with such care. Alex walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The first hints of dawn were appearing on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. Claire would have loved this view. She would have known what to do about the twins. His phone rang, startling him. It was Beth, his executive assistant, calling unusually early. "Please tell me you're not still awake," she said when he answered. "Can't sleep if the twins don't sleep," he replied, his voice flat. Beth sighed. "That's why I'm calling. Mrs. Thompson just quit." "What? Why?" Alex asked, though he already knew the answer. Mrs. Thompson was the third night nanny they'd hired in 2 months. None of them could handle the twins' sleep issues. She said, and I quote, "Those babies need their mother, not a stranger, and Mr. Harper needs a miracle, not a nanny." Alex closed his eyes. "Great. That's just great." "I've already reached out to the agency again," Beth continued, efficiency personified even at this early hour. "They're sending over files for potential replacements later today. But Alex, maybe it's time to consider something different." "Like what?" "I've tried everything, Beth. Everything." "Not everything. There's someone I'd like you to meet. She's not from any of the high-end agencies, but my sister's friend used her for her colicky baby and she worked wonders." Alex scoffed. "I've had the best child care specialists in the country in this house. What makes you think this person can do any better?" "Because she doesn't promise miracles or quick fixes. She actually turned down 3 families last month because she said she couldn't help them. She's selective about who she works with." "Selective? I'm offering more than most nannies make in a year. It's not about the money for her. Look, just meet her. What do you have to lose at this point?" The sound of crying filtered through the baby monitor on the counter. Alex checked his watch. 5:03 a.m. Less than an hour of peace. "Fine," he conceded, already moving toward the nursery again. "Set it up. But don't get your hopes up." Later that morning, after the twins' pediatrician had come and gone, another house call that yielded no solutions. Alex sat in his home office on a video call with his executive team. The babies were with the day nanny, a kind older woman who was wonderful with them but insisted that her contract only covered daytime hours. "The numbers from the Asian market are concerning," his CFO was saying. "We're losing ground to competitors, and the new product launch timeline keeps getting pushed back." Alex nodded, trying to focus, but his mind was foggy from exhaustion. He caught his reflection in the computer screen, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, designer shirt wrinkled. He barely recognized himself. "Alex, did you hear what I said about the board meeting?" his CFO asked. "Sorry, can you repeat that?" The faces on his screen exchanged glances. His chief technology officer cleared his throat. "We were saying that maybe you should consider taking some time off. Just a few weeks to get things sorted at home. The company won't fall apart without you for a short while." But it might, Alex thought. And then what would he have left? His wife was gone. His babies barely knew him despite his constant presence, and now his company, the one thing he still had control over, was slipping away too. "I appreciate the concern," he said firmly. "But I'm fine. Let's get back to the launch timeline." The meeting dragged on, and by the time it ended, Alex's head was pounding. He walked to the kitchen for more coffee and found Beth there, arranging fresh flowers in a vase. "You look terrible," she said bluntly, handing him a sandwich instead of letting him reach for the coffee pot. "Eat this, the interview is in an hour." "Interview?" "The nanny I told you about. She agreed to meet you today." Alex had forgotten entirely. "Beth, I have back-to-back calls all afternoon." "I rescheduled them," she replied, completely unapologetic. "This is more important. Go shower and change. You'll want to make a good impression." As Alex trudged upstairs, he heard the twins laughing from the playroom, a rare, beautiful sound that made his heart ache. They deserved better than a zombie for a father. They deserved the world, and somehow he had to find a way to give it to them, even if it meant putting his hopes in yet another nanny who would probably quit within a week. What he didn't know was that the woman Beth had found wasn't like any of the others, and her simple approach to the twins' sleep problems would change everything, not just for Lily and Rose, but for Alex too. Alex stood in his living room, checking his watch for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. The house was unusually quiet. The day nanny had taken the twins for a walk to give him space for the upcoming interview. He'd changed into fresh clothes at Beth's insistence, though he'd drawn the line at her suggestion to do something with his hair. The doorbell rang precisely at 2 o'clock. At least she was punctual, Alex thought, as he walked to the door. He wasn't sure what he expected. Maybe another older woman with decades of experience or a young, bubbly childcare graduate eager to prove herself. What he didn't expect was the woman standing on his doorstep. Malin was in her early 30s, dressed simply in dark jeans and a light blue button-down shirt. Her black hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she carried a worn leather messenger bag rather than the designer purses the previous nannies had sported. She didn't wear the practiced smile of someone trying to make a good impression. Instead, her expression was calm and appraising as she extended her hand. "Mr. Harper," she said. Her handshake was firm and brief. "Thank you for meeting with me." Alex stepped aside to let her in, noticing she took her shoes off automatically at the door, something none of the previous nannies had done despite the house rules Claire had established. "Beth speaks highly of you," he said, leading her to the living room. Though she was light on details about your experience, May smiled slightly. "I prefer to discuss that in person. It gives us both a chance to see if we'd work well together." As they sat down, Alex noticed she didn't gawk at the expensive art on the walls or the ocean view that usually drew comments from visitors. Instead, she placed a simple notebook on her lap and looked directly at him. "Before we talk about my background, I'd like to hear about your daughters," she said. "Not just their sleep issues, but who they are." The request caught Alex off guard. Previous interviews had centered around his expectations, the salary, and house rules. No one had asked about the twins as people. "Lily and Rose," he said, the names catching slightly in his throat. "They're 6 months old, identical twins, though I can tell them apart now. Lily has a tiny freckle on her left ear, and Rose has a more serious expression. She looks like she's contemplating the meaning of life even when she's just staring at her toes." May smiled, a genuine one this time. "And their personalities?" "Rose is more vocal. She wants everyone to know exactly how she feels at all times. Lily is quieter but more stubborn. Once she decides she wants something, she won't give up until she gets it." Alex paused, realizing he was talking about his daughters in a way he rarely did. "They both love music. If you sing to them, they'll stop crying almost immediately. But only for as long as you're singing. The moment you stop, they start again." "That's helpful," May said, making a note. "Now tell me about their sleep patterns. When do they nap? For how long? What's their bedtime routine?" Alex ran a hand through his hair. "That's the problem. There is no pattern. They sleep when they crash from exhaustion, usually for 30-40 minutes at a time. As for bedtime," he laughed humorlessly, "we've tried everything. Baths, books, special swaddles, sound machines. Nothing works consistently. And at night, they wake up every hour or two. Sometimes they'll give me a 3-hour stretch if I'm lucky. I haven't slept more than that in one go since they were born." May nodded, making more notes. "What about their eating schedule?" "They eat when they're hungry. The pediatrician says they're gaining weight properly, so we must be doing something right." "And you've had 3 night nannies before me?" Alex shifted uncomfortably. 4, actually. None lasted more than a few weeks. "Why did they leave?" The bluntness of her question made Alex bristle. "You'd have to ask them." May looked up from her notebook, her gaze steady. "I'm not asking to judge you, Mr. Harper. I need to understand what didn't work so I don't repeat those mistakes." There was something about her directness that disarmed him. The first one said the house was too big. She couldn't bear hearing the babies cry from so far away. The second claimed the twins were unusually difficult and suggested they needed medical intervention. The third just disappeared one night, left a note saying she was sorry. And Mrs. Thompson, who just quit this morning, thought I was too involved. "Too involved?" Alex stood up, suddenly restless. "She said I undermined her by checking on the twins too often, that I didn't give her methods a chance to work." He walked to the window, looking out at the ocean. Maybe she was right, I don't know anymore. He heard May close her notebook. "Mr. Harper, may I be frank?" "Please." He turned back to face her. Most people in your position hire night nannies, so they don't have to deal with their children at night. They want to sleep while someone else handles the hard parts. But you don't seem to want that. You want to be there for your daughters, but you also need sleep to function, especially with your company responsibilities. Is that correct? Alex nodded, surprised by her insight. In that case, I should tell you how I work, May continued. I don't believe in taking over completely. I believe in partnership with parents. My job isn't just to care for children, but to help create sustainable routines that work even when I'm not there. That sounds good in theory, but it's not just theory, she interrupted gently. Before I explain my background, I should tell you that I won't take this job unless I believe I can truly help. I've turned down families before when I didn't think we were a good match. Alex raised an eyebrow. Beth mentioned that. It's an unusual approach for someone looking for work. I'm not just looking for work, Mr. Harper. I'm looking to make a difference. She hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. My background isn't what you might expect. I don't have a degree in child development from an Ivy League school. I have something different. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small photo, handing it to Alex. It showed a younger May with two small children, a boy and a girl, all three smiling widely. My younger brother and sister, she explained. Our parents died in a car accident when I was 19. They were 4 and 6 at the time. I became their guardian overnight. Alex looked up from the photo, seeing May in a new light. I was a sophomore in college, working part-time at a coffee shop. Suddenly, I was responsible for 2 grieving children who couldn't sleep through the night because of nightmares. I had to figure it out on my own. What did you do? Alex asked quietly. I dropped out of school temporarily. I read every book on child development I could find. I joined support groups. And most importantly, I learned by doing, by being there, every night trying different approaches until I found what worked. She took back the photo, her fingers lingering on the children's faces. Eventually, I went back to school, got my degree in psychology, and turned what I learned into a career. And your siblings? A smile brightened her face. My brother just started college on a music scholarship. My sister's a junior in high school, captain of the debate team. They're thriving. Just then, the front door opened, and the day nanny returned with the twins in their double stroller. Both babies were awake and fussing. Perfect timing, May said, standing up. May I? Alex nodded, curious to see her interaction with the twins. May walked over to the stroller and knelt down to eye level with the babies. Hello, Lily. Hello, Rose, she said softly, not reaching to touch them or pick them up immediately. Instead, she simply made eye contact, speaking in a calm, warm voice. To Alex's surprise, both babies quieted, staring at this new person with wide eyes. They had a good walk, the day nanny reported, but they refused to nap in the stroller. May nodded, still focused on the twins. They look tired. Would it be all right if I observe your afternoon routine, Mr. Harper? It would help me understand their patterns better. Before Alex could answer, his phone rang. It was his CFO again, calling about the Tokyo deal that was rapidly falling apart. He looked apologetically at May. I need to take this. It's important. Of course, she said, standing up. Should I come back another time? Alex glanced at the twins, then at his ringing phone, feeling the familiar pull in 2 directions. No, stay. Mrs. Chen can show you around, and I'll join you as soon as I can. 3 hours later, Alex finally emerged from his home office, exhausted, from putting out corporate fires. He'd managed to salvage the deal, but at what cost? Another afternoon away from his daughters. He found May in the nursery, sitting in the rocking chair while both twins slept peacefully in their cribs. The sight was so unusual that he stopped in the doorway, afraid any movement might wake them. May noticed him and carefully stood up, joining him in the hallway and pulling the door mostly closed. They've been asleep for almost an hour, she whispered. How? Alex asked, genuinely baffled. We can discuss that, but first, have you made a decision about hiring me? Because I've made my decision about taking the job. Alex blinked. You have? May nodded. I'd like to work with you and your daughters, Mr. Harper. I think I can help, but I want to be clear about something. This won't be a quick fix. It will take time, consistency, and your involvement. If you're looking for someone to just take over at night so you can forget about it, I'm not that person. Alex looked through the crack in the door at his sleeping daughters. An hour of uninterrupted sleep in the middle of the day was nothing short of miraculous. When can you start? He asked. Tonight, May replied simply. But we should talk about my approach first. As they walked downstairs to discuss the details, Alex felt something he hadn't experienced in months. A small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. For the first 3 days, May didn't change a thing about the twins' routines. This confused Alex, who had expected her to implement some revolutionary sleep system right away. Instead, she simply observed, taking notes in her little book and asking questions about everything from the temperature in the nursery to the laundry detergent used for the baby's clothes. I don't understand, Alex said on the third night as they sat in the kitchen after another difficult bedtime. The twins are still waking up every hour. What exactly are you observing? May looked up from her notebook. Patterns, she said simply. Everything has a pattern if you watch long enough. And have you found one? Alex asked, trying to keep the frustration out of his voice. He was paying her an incredible amount of money to basically do what the other nannies had done. Rock, crying babies all night while he tried to work. Several, she replied, closing her notebook. Would you like to hear what I've noticed so far? Alex nodded, taking a sip of his coffee. First, the twins' environment is overwhelming their senses, May began. Their nursery has blinking lights, music playing, bright colors, and it faces the ocean where the waves create constant background noise. Their brains never get a signal that it's time to rest. But the sound machine is competing with everything else, she finished gently. It's like trying to have a conversation in a crowded restaurant with 3 different songs playing at once. Alex frowned. The nursery was designed by the top baby space specialist in the country. I'm sure it was, May said, her tone respectful but firm. But your daughters are unique individuals. What works for most babies might not work for them. She opened her notebook again and turned it toward him. Look at this. I've tracked when they sleep most soundly. It's not in their beautiful nursery. It's when you hold them in your office, the plainest, quietest room in the house. Alex looked at her careful documentation. Times and locations matched. With sleep duration. She was right. The longest stretches of sleep happened in his dark, boring office when he'd been working with the twins in his arms. The second pattern, May continued, is their feeding schedule, or lack of one. They eat when they cry, regardless of whether they're actually hungry. This creates a cycle where they associate crying with being fed, so they cry more, eat more, get uncomfortable, and cry again. Alex ran a hand through his hair. The pediatrician said to feed on demand. For newborns, yes, but at 6 months they can begin learning the difference between meal times and sleep times. She turned another page in her notebook. The third pattern is about you, Mr. Harper. Me? Alex was taken aback. Yes. You're inconsistent with them because you're trying to do everything at once. Sometimes you let them cry for 10 minutes while you finish an email. Other times you rush to them the second they make a sound. They never know what to expect. The criticism stung, even though May delivered it without judgment. I'm doing my best, he said quietly. May's expression softened. I know you are. You're in an impossible situation, running a company while being a single father to twins. No one could do it perfectly. She closed her notebook. The good news is that these patterns can be changed. How? Alex asked, feeling a mix of hope and skepticism. I'd like to try something different tonight, May said. With your permission, I want to move the twins to the guest room at the back of the house. Away from the ocean? May nodded. It's smaller, quieter, and has those heavy curtains that block out all light. I want to remove the sound machine, the night lights, and all stimulation. Just 2 cribs, comfortable temperature, and darkness. Alex hesitated. The nursery had been Claire's project, She'd spent months planning every detail, choosing each stuffed animal and mobile with care. Moving the twins felt like erasing her efforts. As if reading his thoughts, May added softly, "Just for tonight. If it doesn't help, we can move them back." After a moment, Alex nodded. "Okay, what else?" "I want to establish a clear schedule, feedings at specific times, not whenever they cry, naps at the same hours every day, in the same place, and a consistent bedtime routine that you and I both follow exactly the same way every night. And you think this will work?" "I think it's worth trying," May said. "The current approach isn't working for anyone. Not for you, and definitely not for Lily and Rose." Later that night, they moved the sleeping twins to the guest room. Alex felt a twinge of guilt as he placed Rose in one of the portable cribs they'd set up. The room was plain compared to the nursery. Just pale blue walls, heavy cream curtains, and a small lamp on the dresser that May switched off as soon as the babies were settled. "Now what?" Alex whispered in the darkness. "Now we wait," May replied. "But not in here. They need to learn that nighttime is for sleeping, not for having company." They left the room, keeping the door slightly ajar. May had set up a baby monitor on the dresser, and they watched the screen from the hallway. Both twins were still asleep, their tiny chests rising and falling peacefully. "They normally wake up around midnight," Alex said, checking his watch. It was 11:45 p.m. "If they do, we'll go in, check that they're clean and comfortable, soothe them briefly, and leave again," May explained. "No picking them up unless absolutely necessary. No feeding unless it's scheduled time, no turning on lights." Alex frowned. "That sounds harsh." "It's not about being harsh. It's about being consistent. They need to learn that nighttime is different from daytime." Midnight came and went. Then 12:30 a.m. The twins slept on. Alex could hardly believe what he was seeing on the monitor. "This is unusual," he whispered. May smiled. "Keep watching." At 1:17 a.m., Lily stirred and began to whimper. Rose followed seconds later, as always. Alex started toward the door, but May gently touched his arm. "Wait," she said. "Let's see if they settle." The whimpers turned to full cries. Alex felt his heart rate increase. Every instinct told him to rush in and comfort his daughters. "Give them 2 minutes," May said calmly. "Just 2 minutes to see if they can self-soothe." Those 2 minutes felt like 2 hours to Alex. But to his amazement, the crying began to subside. On the monitor, he could see Rose finding her thumb and sucking it contentedly. Lily continued to fuss, but with less intensity. "Now?" he asked. May nodded. "Now. But remember, check, soothe, leave." Alex entered the dark room quietly. He went to Lily first, placing a hand gently on her tummy. "It's okay, sweetie, Daddy's here, it's sleep time," he whispered. He made sure her diaper was dry, adjusted her sleep sack, and stroked her cheek gently. To his surprise, she calmed under his touch. Her eyes, which had been wide open, began to droop. Within minutes, she was asleep again. He backed out of the room, finding May in the hallway with a smile on her face. "That's never happened before," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "She's never gone back to sleep so easily." Because for the first time, everything around her was telling her brain it's time to sleep. The dark room, the quiet, the consistent response, May explained. "Now, you should get some sleep too. I'll stay up and monitor them." But Alex shook his head. "I want to see if this really works." So they sat in the hallway, watching the monitor together. The twins slept until 4:30 a.m., a 3-hour stretch that felt like a miracle. When they woke for their scheduled feeding, May showed Alex how to keep the interaction minimal. Low voices, dim lights, no eye contact or playful engagement. Just a business-like feeding, diaper change, and back to bed. To Alex's astonishment, both babies went back to sleep afterward and slept until 7 a.m. "Is this real?" he asked as they stood in the kitchen the next morning, the twins contentedly playing in their bouncy seats nearby. "Or am I so sleep-deprived I'm hallucinating?" May laughed. "It's real. But it's just the beginning. One good night doesn't mean we've solved the problem. What's the next step? Alex asked, feeling more energetic than he had in months after getting nearly 5 consecutive hours of sleep. Consistency, May replied. The same schedule, same responses, same environment, day after day. Their brains need to learn the pattern before it becomes natural. Over the next few days, May implemented other changes. She moved the twins' daytime naps to the guest room as well, keeping their sleep environment consistent. She created a feeding schedule that gradually stretched the time between nighttime feedings. She established a simple bedtime routine. Bath, soft music for exactly 10 minutes, sleep sacs, and then darkness and quiet. Most surprisingly to Alex, she recommended moving the twins to the same crib. They shared a womb for 9 months, she explained. Sometimes being close to each other is comforting. Alex was skeptical, but the first time they tried it, the twins slept for 5 straight hours. They seemed to instinctively curl toward each other, finding comfort in their sister's presence. By the end of the week, Alex noticed other changes too. The babies were happier during the day, more playful and less fussy. They smiled more, especially at May, who spoke to them in a respectful, adult way that made Alex rethink his own baby talk. You were right, he admitted one evening as they sat on the patio after successfully putting the twins down for the night. It was all about simplifying things. May nodded. Often the best solutions are the simplest ones. We tend to think more is better. More toys, more gadgets, more stimulation. But babies' brains are already working overtime to process the world. Sometimes what they need most is less. And consistency, Alex added. That's been the hardest part for me, sticking to the schedule even when I have work emergencies. You're doing well, May said. I've seen many parents struggle with it, especially single parents. But you're prioritizing them, and they feel that. Alex looked toward the house, thinking of his daughters sleeping peacefully inside. Their mother would be proud of them. They're so strong, so resilient. Like their father, May said quietly. Alex turned to look at her, surprised by the personal comment. In the dim patio lights, her expression was warm but professional. She had maintained clear boundaries throughout their time together, always keeping the focus on the twins and their needs. For the first time in months, Alex felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. He wasn't solving this problem alone anymore. And maybe, just maybe, they were all going to be okay. 2 weeks after May began working with the Harper family, the changes were remarkable. The twins now slept in their new room from 7:30 p.m. until 5 a.m. most nights, with just one feeding around midnight. Alex had moved his home office to a room near the twins' new sleeping space, finding himself more productive without the ocean view he'd once thought essential. Most importantly, he was sleeping again, not a full night but enough to function like a human being rather than a zombie. The success should have made everyone happy. But as Alex sat in his newly relocated office reviewing quarterly reports, he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The company's Asia expansion was back on track. The board was pleased with his renewed focus, and his daughters were thriving. Yet something felt off. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. May stood in the doorway, her expression serious. "Do you have a minute to talk?" she asked. Alex nodded, setting aside his laptop. "Is everything okay with the twins?" "The twins are fine," May said, taking a seat across from him. "They're napping right on schedule. It's you I'm concerned about." Alex blinked in surprise. "Me? Why?" May seemed to choose her words carefully. "You've been distant this past week, less involved in the bedtime routine. I wanted to check if something was wrong." The observation was accurate, though Alex hadn't realized his behavior was so obvious. He'd been pulling back, spending more time working and less time with the girls during their waking hours. "I've been busy with work," he said, gesturing to his laptop. "The Tokyo deal is finally moving forward." "I understand," May replied, her tone gentle but firm. "But I thought you should know that Lily asked for you last night before bed." She looked around the room and said "Dada" very clearly. A lump formed in Alex's throat. Lily's first word, and he'd missed it. "I recorded it for you," May added, pulling out her phone. "I thought you'd want to see." She played the short video, and sure enough, there was Lily in her crib, looking toward the door and clearly saying Dada before turning to her sister. The simple moment brought tears to Alex's eyes. "Thank you for showing me," he said quietly, handing back the phone. May didn't get up to leave. Instead, she leaned forward slightly. "Mr. Harper, when we started working together, you said you wanted to be involved with your daughters. Has that changed?" The direct question made Alex uncomfortable. "Of course not. I love my girls." "I know. You do. But something has shifted. At first you checked on them constantly. Now you seem almost relieved to have someone else handling them." Alex stood up and walked to the window, which now overlooked the garden instead of the ocean. "Maybe that's the problem," he said after a long pause. "Everything's working so well now. The twins are sleeping, I'm sleeping, work is back on track. It feels too easy." "And that makes you feel guilty," May suggested. Alex turned to face her, surprised by her insight. "How did you—" "It's common," she said. "Many parents feel guilty when childcare becomes easier, especially after a loss. As if suffering somehow proves your devotion." Her words hit uncomfortably close to home. The truth was, part of him did feel guilty. Claire had never gotten the chance to see her daughters sleeping peacefully through the night. She'd never experienced the joy of hearing their first words or watching them grow. It seemed unfair that things were getting easier for him when she'd been robbed of everything. "I didn't realize how much I'd defined myself by the struggle," Alex admitted. "For months, my entire identity was sleep-deprived dad of twins. Now that they're sleeping, I'm not sure who I am anymore." May nodded understandingly. "You're still figuring out how to be a father without your wife. That takes time." "I keep thinking about what Claire would do," Alex said, the words spilling out now. "Every decision feels like a test I might be failing. Moving the twins out of the nursery she designed feels like I'm erasing her." "You're not erasing her," May said gently. "You're adapting to what your daughters need right now. That's exactly what she would want you to do." Alex hadn't expected this conversation when he woke up this morning. But May's straightforward approach made it impossible to hide behind excuses or work commitments. She saw through him in a way that was both uncomfortable and oddly comforting. "I've been thinking," he said slowly. "Maybe we should move some of Claire's touches from the nursery into their new room. The special blankets she picked out, the family photos she framed. Not the overstimulating stuff, but the personal things." May smiled. "I think that's a wonderful idea. It would bring her presence into their new space." "Would that disrupt the sleep routine we've established?" "Not if we do it thoughtfully. Some familiar objects might actually help them feel more secure." Alex felt a weight lifting from his chest. "I'd like to do that today. Can you help me choose which items to move?" "Of course," May replied, standing up. "But first the twins will be waking from their nap soon. Would you like to be there when they do?" Lily might say Dada again. For the first time in days, Alex smiled genuinely. "I wouldn't miss it." That afternoon, they carefully selected items from the original nursery to incorporate into the twins' new sleep space. The process was emotional for Alex, handling the stuffed animals Claire had collected and the blankets her mother had knitted before passing away. But it also felt healing, like building a bridge between the life he'd planned with Claire and the reality he now faced. She picked this mobile because it reminded her of the stars in her hometown, Alex explained as he carefully took down a simple wooden mobile with moons and stars. She grew up in a small town where you could see the Milky Way every night. Menker helped him hang it in the new room, positioning it where the twins could see it while falling asleep, but not where it would distract them. "It's beautiful," she said. "Simple but meaningful. Like your approach to childcare," Alex observed. May smiled slightly. "I believe children don't need fancy things. They need routine, security, and love. Everything else is just decoration." By evening, they had transformed the guest room into a proper nursery, still simple and calm but with touches of Claire throughout. Family photos in simple frames sat on the dresser. A handmade quilt hung on the wall instead of over the cribs. and Claire's collection of children's books filled a small bookshelf. As they prepared the twins for bed that night, Alex felt a new sense of peace. He followed the routine May had established: bath, gentle music, sleep sacks. But now the room felt like it belonged to his family, not just a temporary solution. "Dada," Lily said clearly as he laid her in the crib next to her. "Sister?" Rose babbled something that wasn't quite a word yet, but she reached for his hand, her tiny fingers wrapping around his thumb. "Good night, my sweet girls," Alex whispered. "Mama and Dada love you very much." He backed out of the room slowly, leaving the door cracked as always. May was waiting in the hallway, her expression warm. "That was beautiful," she said quietly. "Felt right," Alex replied. For the first time in a long time, it felt completely right. They walked downstairs to the kitchen, where May began making tea, another routine they'd fallen into during the evenings after the twins were asleep. "I've been meaning to ask you something," Alex said as she handed him a steaming mug. "The method you've used with the twins, the simplicity, the consistency, the shared crib. Why don't more people know about this? It seems so obvious now." Sat across from him at the kitchen island. "Because it's not exciting or profitable," she said simply. "You can't package less is more into a product that sells for hundreds of dollars. You can't market be consistent as revolutionary. But it works," Alex said, thinking of his daughters sleeping peacefully upstairs. "It works because it respects children as people," May explained. "Babies aren't complicated. They need what we all need: a sense of security, a predictable environment, and the knowledge that someone cares about them." Alex nodded thoughtfully. "My company spends millions on innovation every year, always looking for the next big breakthrough. But sometimes the answer is going back to basics." "Exactly," May agreed. "Though I should be clear, what works for your twins might not work for every baby. That's why I spent those first days just watching and learning. Each child is different." "Is that why you turned down other families?" Alex asked. "Because you knew your approach wouldn't work for them?" May sipped her tea before answering. "Sometimes, other times, I could tell the parents weren't ready to make changes themselves. Sleep training isn't just about the babies, it's about the whole family system." "And our family?" Alex asked. "Do you think we're going to be okay?" The question was bigger than sleep training, and they both knew it. May set down her mug and met his gaze directly. "I think you're already okay," she said. "You're a father who loves his daughters enough to change his own habits for their benefit. You honor their mother's memory while adapting to their needs, and most importantly, you're present. Even when it's painful or difficult." Her words touched something deep in Alex's heart. For months, he'd felt like he was failing at fatherhood, at running his company, at honoring Claire's memory. Hearing May's assessment made him see his situation differently. "Thank you," he said simply. "Not just for helping the twins sleep, but for helping me see more clearly." May smiled, and for a moment the professional distance between them seemed to shrink. "That's part of my job too," she said softly. "Helping parents remember who they are beyond the exhaustion." As they finished their tea in comfortable silence, Alex realized something had fundamentally shifted. The simple changes May had introduced weren't just helping his daughter sleep, they were helping all of them heal. 6 months passed, and life in the Harper household settled into a rhythm that once would have seemed impossible. The twins, now 1 year old, slept through the night, in their simple, peaceful room. They napped at predictable times, ate on a regular schedule, and had blossomed into happy, curious toddlers who delighted everyone around them. Rose had said her first word, book, 3 weeks after Lily's Dada, and both girls were now building an impressive vocabulary. They babbled to each other in what seemed like their own private language, often dissolving into giggles that no one else understood. Their personalities were emerging more clearly each day. Lily bold and adventurous, Rose thoughtful and observant. The changes in Alex were just as remarkable. The dark circles under his eyes had faded, and the tension he'd carried in his shoulders for so long had eased. He'd found a new balance between work and fatherhood, scheduling important calls during nap times and saving early mornings and evenings for his daughters. His company had just launched its most successful product yet, an innovation he'd conceived during one of his newly peaceful nights of sleep. Most significantly, he'd begun to talk about Claire more openly. Photos of her now hung throughout the house, not just in the nursery. He told the twins stories about their mother every day, showing them places she had loved and reading them the books she had chosen before they were born. The sharp pain of her absence had gradually transformed into a gentle sadness that could coexist with joy. Much of this healing could be traced back to the simple changes May had introduced. Her approach, removing excess stimulation, establishing consistent routines and respecting the twins as individuals, had created a foundation of security that benefited the entire family. What had begun as a desperate attempt to get the babies to sleep had evolved into a philosophy that touched every aspect of their lives. On a sunny Saturday morning, Alex sat on a blanket in the backyard with the twins, who were exploring a collection of natural objects, pine cones, smooth stones, and leaves with intense concentration. May was nearby, taking photos of the girls for their baby album. "I can't believe how different things are now," Alex said, watching as Lily carefully stacked 3 stones while Rose examined a pine cone with scholarly focus. "Remember when I couldn't even imagine them sleeping through dinner, let alone the night?" May smiled, capturing Rose's serious expression in a perfect photo. "You've all come a long way." "Because of you," Alex said. "I don't know what we would have done without your help." A flicker of something, perhaps sadness, crossed May's face. "You would have figured it out eventually. Parents always do." "Not as well and not as quickly," Alex insisted. "You changed everything with such simple adjustments. It still amazes me." May put down the camera and joined him on the blanket. The twins immediately crawled toward her as they always did when she was nearby. They adored her, and the feeling was clearly mutual. May had maintained her professional boundaries throughout her time with the family, but her affection for Lily and Rose was undeniable. "Actually," she said, helping Rose turn the pine cone to examine its other side, "there's something I need to talk to you about." Something in her tone made Alex pay closer attention. "What is it?" May took a deep breath. "I've been offered a position at the Children's Sleep Research Center. They want me to help develop a program for parents of multiples based on the approach I've used with Lily and Rose." "That's wonderful," Alex said, though he felt an unexpected tightness in his chest. "You'd be perfect for that role. It would mean working with many families, sharing these methods more widely." May continued, helping Lily when her tower of stones toppled. "The director read the article about my work and reached out last week." "Article?" Alex asked, confused. May looked surprised. "The one in Parents Today, about the sleep approach I developed. Your assistant Beth submitted it. I thought you knew." Alex shook his head. "Beth has been full of surprises lately, but I'm glad she did. Your methods should be shared with other families who are struggling." "So you think I should take the position?" May asked, watching his face carefully. The question hung in the air between them. The logical answer was yes. Of course she should take it. It was a prestigious opportunity that would allow her to help countless families. But the thought of May leaving created a hollow feeling in Alex's stomach that he wasn't prepared for. "When would you start?" he asked instead of answering directly. "They want me to begin next month," she said. "I'd need to give you notice now, so you could find a replacement." "A replacement," Alex repeated, the word feeling wholly inadequate. How could anyone replace what May had brought to their lives? She wasn't just a nanny who had solved their sleep problems. She had become something more. A trusted advisor, a steady presence. Someone who understood his daughters almost as well as he did. Rose chose that moment to offer May the pine cone, a serious expression on her tiny face. "For you," she said clearly. "Thank you, Rose," May replied with equal seriousness, accepting the gift with both hands. "I'll keep it safe." The simple exchange illustrated exactly what made May special. Her ability to meet the twins exactly where they were, to treat their offerings and concerns with genuine respect. Alex couldn't imagine mornings like this without her. I don't want you to go, he said before he could stop himself. The girls need you. He paused, suddenly aware of how dependent he'd become on her presence. We've all come to rely on you. May looked down at the pine cone in her hands. That was never my intention. My job was to help you become confident in your parenting, not to make myself necessary. But you are necessary, Alex insisted. The twins adore you. They adore you more, May said gently. You're their father. I'm just someone who helped along the way. Lily crawled into Alex's lap then, demanding his attention with a board book she wanted him to read. He opened it automatically, but his mind was racing. The thought of disrupting the harmony they'd found was terrifying. What if the twins regressed without May? What if he couldn't maintain the routines on his own? What if the household lost the warmth she had brought into it? Read, Dada, Lily commanded, patting the book impatiently. Alex began reading, his voice mechanical as he processed what May's departure would mean. He'd faced so many changes in the past year and a half, becoming a widower, a single father to twins, learning to function through exhaustion, and finally finding a new normal, now that normal was about to change again. When the story ended, Lily climbed out of his lap to join her sister, who had moved on to examining leaves. May was watching him, waiting for a response he didn't know how to give. I understand this is sudden, she said when he remained silent. You should take some time to think about it. Alex nodded, grateful for the reprieve. Yes, let's talk about it later. The rest of the day passed in a blur of normal activities, lunch, naps, playtime, dinner, but Alex's mind kept returning to the impending change. By the time the twins were asleep for the night, he had made a decision. He found May on the patio, in what had become her usual evening spot. She was writing in her notebook, probably documenting the twins' progress as she did every night. Can we talk now? He asked, taking the seat across from her. May closed her notebook. Of course. I've been thinking about what you said, Alex began. About the research position. You should take it. Her expression was unreadable in the dim patio lights. Are you sure? No, he admitted with a small laugh. I'm terrified, actually, but that's exactly why you should go. You've created something amazing here, May. The twins are thriving, I'm functioning again, and we have routines that work. If I can't manage without you now, when will I ever be able to? May smiled, though there was a hint of sadness in it. You've been managing for months already. You just haven't realized it. What do you mean? Think about it, she said. For the past 3 months, I haven't had to intervene in any nighttime wakings. You've handled all the schedule adjustments when they've been sick or teething. You've maintained the routines even during busy work periods. Alex considered this. It was true. He had taken over most of the daily childcare tasks without even noticing the shift. May had gradually stepped back, allowing him to become more confident in his own parenting abilities. You were preparing me all along, he realized. That's always been the goal, she said softly. Not to be needed forever, but to help establish patterns that work for your family long term. And you think we're ready? I know you are, May said confidently. The twins are secure. Their routines are solid, and you've become the father they need, consistent, present, and much more rested. Alex laughed at the last part. Remember when you first came here and I could barely string a sentence together? You were in survival mode, May said. Many parents get stuck there for years. You found your way out remarkably quickly. Because of your help, Alex said, reaching across the table to touch her hand briefly. Thank you, May, not just for the sleep training, but for everything you've taught us. The moment stretched between them, full of things unsaid. In another life, in different circumstances, perhaps their connection might have developed differently. But they both understood the boundaries of their relationship and respected them. I have a proposal, Alex said finally. Before you leave, would you write down your approach? Not just for me and the twins, but for other parents. My company's publishing division could turn it into a book. No gimmicks, no expensive products to buy. Just your simple, effective methods. May looked surprised. You think people would be interested in that? I think desperate parents everywhere would be grateful, Alex said. I know I would have given anything for that book 18 months ago. I'll think about it, May promised. In the meantime, we have 4 weeks to make sure you and the girls are completely ready for the transition. As they continued talking about practical matters, scheduling, routines, contingency plans, Alex felt a mixture of emotions. Sadness that May would be leaving, but also pride in how far they had all come. The twins who had never slept now rested peacefully through the night. The father who had been drowning in grief and exhaustion now moved confidently through his days. And May, who had entered their lives during their darkest time, had given them the simplest but most powerful gift of all, the knowledge that sometimes, less truly, is more. In a world that constantly pushed for more stimulation, more gadgets, more of everything, she had shown them the power of simplicity, consistency, and respect. It was a lesson worth sharing, and Alex knew that whatever came next, their lives had been forever changed by the nanny who did that one simple thing.